Hello, Alex Gill with Anime on Location. We're here at ASEN 2011 with J. Michael Tatum. It has been about a year since the last time we got to speak with you at OhioCon 2010. What's been new since we got to chat with you last?
Oh wow, tons of stuff. A lot happens in a year. A lot. It's been crazy. Black Butler, of course, has happened since last we spoke. I think Spice and Wolf now is all out. A bunch of really cool projects. Hitalia has happened. A lot of big, wonderful, like huge fan base sort of shows have happened. So yeah, a lot of good things. And I've been writing like crazy. So.
Some of your recent work has had you using dialects like Hitalia and Black Butler. How do you physically and mentally prepare yourself when you're alternating your voice in this manner?
It's really funny. Accents in general, certain accents, especially British accents, come very easily to me because I kind of learned how to talk using a British accent, if that makes sense. I had a speech impediment when I was very young, and I had a speech coach who was British, and so sort of the way I learned to talk was, repeating her, and so everything was like, oh, the rain in Spain falls mainly in the so it's really kind of goofy, but that's how. And like France and Italia, that's funny. That's not a good French accent. Just so everybody knows, that is like the worst, like horribly stereotypical. But that's fun. It's like when you don't think you have to do it very good, you're like, oh well, there's no pressure. Accents are fun. It's a challenge, but you just prepare for it by, like, I don't know, watching a lot of BBC, watching a lot of stuff that you just encounter the accent in everyday life, and it's funny. And I like to learn different languages and stuff too, so the accents come somewhat easier than they would otherwise, I think.
In our previous discussion, we also noted that you're a director and writer, and have these two areas become easier for you to approach, especially with Dragon Ball Z?
Well, Dragon Ball Z Kai has been amazing to get to work on as a writer. That's probably some of my, not to toot my own horn, but I think it's some of my best work as a writer, getting to work on a show that it's a challenge because it already has a huge following, and so with the re-envisioning, with the Kai re-envisioning is something that you're like, oh, okay, the pressure's on. But getting to write characters like Frieza, I'm very, very, very proud of getting to be involved with that process. Of course, I wasn't the only writer on that show. John Bergmeyer and Joel McDonald were also big writers on that show, and it was a great team to work with. And getting to work on a show that challenging can't help but sort of step up your game, not only when it comes to writing, but also directing, and also when it comes to voice acting. I mean, they all sort of come out of the same bag of tricks, as it were. And so if you get really good at one and you learn to, my day might consist of spending like 4 hours in the booth recording, matching flaps in the booth physically in real time in front of a mic, and then the rest of the time I'm at home doing it in my head with, a keyboard in front of me. And so it's really kind of it's really gotten me focused. So that, like, there's almost no free time in my day where I'm not trying to match flaps. It's difficult. Like if you and I were to sit here and talk for a length of time and you were just like mouth stuff at me, I would be mentally filling your flaps with my own words. It's kind of ridiculous. It makes me impossible to talk to sometimes.
It's kind of like the HAL 9000 2001, where you just become capable of reading lips too.
Exactly. See, like right now, I didn't hear a word you said. But I'm putting words in your mouth. And thank you. This is a nice jacket. I really appreciate the compliment.
Oh,
It's
well.
not as nice as your jacket. Your jacket is much nicer.
No. I think they're both nice in different ways. All right, but you're also hosting a podcast with fellow voice actor Terry Doherty called The Anime Show. How did that come about?
Terry Doty and I actually got the chance to work together as directors on a couple of projects, and so we became really fast friends. Her husband is also an engineer with Funimation, and probably one of the best recording engineers we have up there. He's a really wonderfully talented guy. And Terry just came to me and said, hey, I'd like to do a podcast where we just interview people that otherwise don't get a chance to, like, go to conventions or do things like this, just to kind of give it kind of almost like an archival thing. We just want to have these people that we know and work with that don't often have the chance to sit down and sort of tell their stories or be themselves. I mean, obviously, that anime show is very... There's a lot of expletives, so people, it's definitely, not family friendly all the time, but it's fun. People can kind of really just sit down and let loose and talk about their experiences, not only in the industry, but also doing, film and stage work and other things. And it was just fun to do. Terry just had the idea one day. She said, do you want to be part of that? And I said, absolutely. And so it's her brainchild, and I just was kind of along for the ride. But it's been a fun ride. It's really cool to sit down and hear these stories from people that we're very fond of and that we get to work with in some capacity and be like, well, let's hear about the real you. It's fun. It's a great deal of fun.
I think that's one of the good things about anime is that the fans and the people that are involved in production have such a close relationship with each other.
Oh yes, absolutely. One big dysfunctional family.
Yeah. You've also worked on the adult title Rin. What were some of the challenges when working on Rin?
Rin was really cool to work on. It was a really great show. I loved the story. I loved the animation style. I loved the adult nature of it because never did it seem gratuitous or just there for its own sake. It really seemed part of the story. And I love when you can go there as a director and take this really dark material and it's not just there to be shocking. It's there to serve a greater purpose in the story. So it wasn't challenging from a standpoint of going, oh my God, how am I going to make this work? The challenge was having actors that have never had to do something like this before. And there were a few that did wonderful work, but my job as a director was to kind of make them comfortable and kind of give them a space where, like, this you're going to feel very vulnerable doing some of the things you have to do here that you wouldn't be called on to do another show. But in the end, like, it really made us very tight. All of us really bonded. Again, Terry Doty actually was my assistant on that show, my assistant director on that show, and she did wonderful work on that. And that was really the biggest challenge, was just realizing that, yeah, we can go there, we can do this, so just let loose. And it was fun. Again, Ren was some of the best times I've had directing in the booth. It was really outstanding. My cast for that show was just spot on perfect.
All right. Your first show to voice and work on was Samurai 7. How did the success of that show, how did things change for you as an actor because of Samurai 7?
It's funny you mentioned that. When I was doing Samurai 7, I wasn't a voice actor full-time. I still had a 9-to-5 job, or 9-to-6 job. Who works a 9-to-5 anymore, right? And so I didn't really know a lot of people in the industry at the time. I didn't have a chance to see them in the hallways because I always came in to record on Samurai 7 on either weekends or after hours. So my rapport was only with the show's director and his engineer and a few people that would come and go in the odd hours like I did. And after the show was released, and other people up there at Funimation, of course, started seeing it, and I started getting called in for other work because I like this guy's voice, let's call him in, which is generally how it happens for everybody. I suddenly, very slowly but surely, began sort of cracking this very hard nut of the larger world of these professionals. And once I got to know them, like, oh, you're really cool. Oh, yeah, I've done, it's often we'll meet someone maybe years after we've done several shows together. And you're like, oh my God, I've been like in 8 shows with you. That's amazing. And more of that happened. And so after Samurai 7 came out and the success of that show really took off, as it should have. It's a really remarkable show. It's, to date, still one of my all-time favorite projects. But it was really funny how I was kind of very isolated in the beginning because of the nature of the way I had to come in to record. And once that took off, I started slowly meeting people and getting to go to conventions and seeing more directors and stuff. And then it just sort of, it happened so gradually that it almost happened beneath my notice. Like it took several years, but it was a wonderful few years where I was still kind of just sort of this anonymous guy that would come in and do work. And in those days, when I got work, it was usually for people that were just somewhat familiar with, a bit part here or there. And so I got to explore my range a great deal more because I wasn't typecast as anything. I hadn't been working enough to be typecast. So in the early days, I really got to branch out and do some really crazy things with my voice that I would never have been asked to do, and then I'm not really asked to do now because I was unknown. And so it was really fun. I liked being the relatively anonymous guy that they're like, well, he sounds good, let's get him in, let's try. Can you go deep, can you go young, can you do this? And so it was a very experimental phase of getting to explore my own range, and as an actor and as particularly as a voice actor, which was really a lot of fun. And I do kind of miss it. I do still, an element of that challenge is still there, but now that I'm relatively established, I don't get the butterflies in my stomach the way I used to when I go into record, and I kind of miss that. I kind of miss the anxiety. I kind of miss going, oh, I'm so nervous, I have no idea how I'm going to get through this session, because now it's just kind of like I have sort of the confidence to go in and just get it done and have fun, and I do still, of course, really enjoy it, but I do miss being the new guy. Yeah. Being the new guy was really charming. Yeah, it was really cool. I miss those days. I'll always have them in my heart, though.
All right. You grew up on some of the classic anime, which is what I grew up on. Of these classics, which one of them was your favorite to watch when you were young?
Oh, that's a tough one. My favorite was probably anything from the Captain Harlock universe. I frickin' love that stuff. And none of it, like the continuity, forget it. Like there's, from one show to the next, it's just everything is a revamping. But I love those characters. It's space pirates, for God's sakes, space pirates. How could you hate that? And that was like, I don't know, that was Captain Harlock was a formative influence on me as a kid. I'm like, if I don't get to do something interesting with my life, I'm going to be a space pirate. And I think I've gotten relatively closer to that ideal than I would have otherwise. Don't you?
Well, you've got the voice, a lot of various characters.
Yes.
So.
That would go on to be space pirates if given the chance. Yes. Maybe one day I'll get to be in a Captain Harlock revamp. That would be, oh my God, that would be a dream. I'm going to do that right before I die.
All right. Well, you recently spoke on your podcast a little bit about going to New York to record Pokemon with Tom Wayland.
Yes.
What was the experience of recording for that show like?
It was really cool. I had never, it was the first time I'd ever recorded in New York, period. First time I'd ever been in New York. And Tom, I've met Tom several times, really, really cool guy, very, very talented. And it was great to work with him. And when he approached me and said, hey, do you want to come in for a little bit and record on Pokemon? I'm like, you're kidding me, right? Really? Really? Me on Pokemon? I'm like, this is an iconic show, and getting to really be part of something, and to play the characters specifically that I did, he was like, he sort of rubbed his hands and gleefully told me about him, and I'm like, oh yes, please God, yes, this will be great. And it was a few hours of work, really, all it was, but it was really wonderful working in, in the studio, a studio space I'd never set foot in before, which is always interesting because part of the game is, how do I deal with the newness that I'm around, kind of forget about it so I can act. But Tom was so wonderful at just getting me there, and it's really wonderful working with new directors, and Tom is one of the best. And so, you really feel like you have arrived when someone like Tom Wayland says, hey, would you like to be in something like a Pokemon? I mean, you're like, okay, that really is, that is a threshold you cross if you get to cross it, like maybe once in your life. And so it was a great thing. I think I had to spend most of the session, however, not squeeing the entire time. Like I had to sort of do the equivalent of the pee-pee dance in front of the microphone because I was so excited to get to do it that I was like, okay, no, gotta be professional, okay, and then squee. It was funny. I think I may have scared Tom a little bit with how excited I was, but it came off, I think, really well. And I'm very proud to have gotten to say I was part of Pokemon, because that's a big deal. That's a big deal. That show's been on since long before I ever even thought about voice acting. Yeah. So it's pretty amazing to get to be part of something that's been around that long, and it has been such a flagship franchise for anime here in the States. It's amazing. It's great. I'm very fortunate to have that kind of luck. So thank you, Tom. We love you.
All right. Finally, are there any upcoming projects that you can discuss with us?
No. I'm sure there are, but I always forget to check before I come to these cons. I'm like, oh, can I talk about that? I suffice to say, I'm working on quite a few things right now, burning the candle at both ends, which I'd love to do. But yeah, I don't know what I can talk about. So I'm like, yeah, I could talk about that. No, I can't. So I'll just say a lot of exciting things that are coming out soon.
We anticipate those exciting things when they do come out. This has been J. Michael Tatum with Anime on Location. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.